I'm really, really delighted this evening that Sharon Draper, psychologist Sharon Draper, is joining me, and we're going to be chatting about a lot of things that are affecting people right now. Sharon is a regular contributor to the Homewrecker magazine as well, and has come into the group before and talks about isolation and sort of protecting your mental health in that way. We're now going to be talking about isolation in a different sense, is that we're all kind of isolated as households, but actually more than that, we're actually just confined. A lot of us are confined. Depends where you are. Sharon's joining me from Australia, so actually I say good evening, but it's morning for you. But it's really good to have you here and talk about these things. I think it's so important that we're addressing them because, you know, we're all affected by this right now. And I think the first thing to say is that the reason we're probably all feeling a little bit like this at the moment is because this is an unprecedented situation and we've never really faced this kind of thing before. So when there's so much unknown and uncertainty, I guess that feeds into the fear and the anxiety that we might all be feeling, at least in parts at the moment. So let's talk about the fact that a lot of us, certainly over here now in the UK, are having to work from home, and that might mean, but that's suddenly everyone. So not just someone who's used to working from home and is a normal home worker, but actually couples together, whole families under one roof, schools closed. I mean, we're all not trapped, but we might feel a bit trapped, and we might feel that sort of sense of not, confinement. So I mean, how do we sort of go about trying to protect ourselves and our sanity at this time?
Yes, no, absolutely. It's a good question. I think I want to talk a little bit about kind of the panic first, if that's okay.
Yeah,
I think that's where it's like the source of anxiety.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that we, and I'm sure people have read about these tips as well, but it's really imperative that we manage the exposure we have to media, because media is a sensationalist, platform as well. So you've got to make sure that you try and stay focused on the facts and have a reputable source of information. It's really, really important because there's such a thing called emotional contagion. And that's where, if one person is feeling highly emotive and behaving in certain ways, like reactively based on that emotion, emotional contagion is where we can kind of it's a contagious thing. So if somebody's panicking, you can start panicking, and then the next person starts panicking, and then we're all panicking. And even though, it's important to understand the difference between being cautious and alert versus panicking. So panicking is when we are, we're not thinking rationally. We are in a space where we are just constantly kind of trying to work out what we should do, but we can't really think clearly. It's like a fight or flight space. And that's usually when there's some sort of danger. So if we are exposing ourselves to constant media. Now, I've got two phones. I've got a work phone and a home phone, and I get news notifications constantly on both. So you kind of either have to switch it off, those notifications, and make sure that you consciously decide to read something. So not just every morning as you waking up in bed, you kind of exposed to this stuff. It's really important that you manage that exposure. So like I said, it's really important to have a balance. So know the information or learn about it in a curious way, but not get to a place where, oh my gosh, the world is ending. I've heard people say things like that. It is not helpful. It's not helpful, and it isn't. Yes, there's uncertainty. We don't really know too much, but we do know a lot of stuff as well. And I think we've got to also make sure that we balance the positive information with the negative uncertainty too. But I think that kind of, just wanted to kind of stay with that panic, if that's right, just because when we are in that panic state, it's really hard for us to calm down, and therefore we do react to it. I was saying earlier, kind of behaviors are reactive too, and then you have things like panic buying, and
we know, yes.
So it's not a helpful space to be in, because then we start judging others as well, and we start isolating ourselves from other people, and like, I hate people are saying things like that, and it's like, oof, it's not really the healthy way to look at things. We need to try and stick together and be supportive of each other, but in a calm way. And I think a lot of people I meet, you know, are highly productive. We're in a society where it's just work, you know, being busy is seen as, you know, like a status, you know, simple way, and oh, I'm so busy, I can't do this thing. And I read something, I need to find the actual person who wrote it, because it was brilliant, and it talked a bit about yin and yang, and how yang is all about that active, you know, like movement, and we are in a society that it encourages that. And this quarantine, self-isolation, social distancing has forced us to slow down. And usually we like slow down in the sense that, yeah, we have to change and adapt our ways, you know, and that wasn't a choice that we made. But usually where people are able to have that yin or that calm space in short bursts, but now we're forced to kind of be in it, you know. And again, it does come down to like no choice in the matter. So there's that uncertainty. I think if people said, or, you know, the government said on the 20th of April, this will all be resolved, I think people can then would be able to handle it a bit more, because there's a time frame. If there's a time frame, it's a little bit easier. Like a gym class, you know, you're not going to be.
You know when it's going to end. Yeah, there's a more certain outcome there. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but unfortunately, that isn't the case. And then again, there's a lot of media that's just you read all these different
inflating things, it all. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's so many interesting stories, and you're like, really? It's like, how's that even going to happen? Or, you know, so it's really important to try and keep yourself calm, mindfully calm. So in your mind as well as your body. And this is the time to practice all the different kinds of relaxation. So that's what's going to help you. And I think a lot of people are like, I've had people say, I don't do yoga, I don't do breath work. I'm like, cool, but this is now time to start trying and practicing. Yeah. So I think, all that leads into that confinement that we were mentioning earlier, with regards to kind of being in one closed space. I've got quite a lot of clients who aren't really worried about the virus per se, but they're more worried about how am I going to cope with all my family members. You know, there might be 4 or 5 family members all under one roof. And that's unusual. And then if you like your house tidy, the kids are going to be there a lot longer than normal. So you've got
there's going to be a lot of added frustrations, aren't there? Because people are going to, and you know, if you have any OCD tendencies where you're, you know, wanting to keep everything tidy and clean, and you know, that's not going to happen, is it, for the next
100%? No. So the most important thing is that I think it's important for people to keep in mind, it's not sort of change, because nobody likes change, especially if you haven't chosen to make the change. Try and adapt. We've got to adapt or adjust or be a little bit agile, you know, just a little bit flexible, less rigid, and no, things must be done this way, because clearly we're forced into this. And I think it's an opportunity to try and challenge yourself a little bit and to think out the box as to what you can normally do. Keeping routine with regards to day-to-day routine, but think of things in a slightly different way. It is kind of forcing you, like I said, but I think it's important that you try to embrace that part if you can, just a little bit, where you just think a bit more flexibly. Like, for example, if like I know people who would, you absolutely need, the house needs to be a certain way. Maybe, you know, the kids might have chores that they usually do, but you may need to have a family discussion and go, all right, things are a little bit different now. I really need this from you. You know, I think what's really important is to identify what your needs are first, each family member, and then have a family meeting as a discussion, not telling people what to do, not telling your children what to do, well, depending on the age, of course, but having a discussion as to what can I do, what can you do? Like, let's use this as a bonding experience where we can communicate clearly and clear boundaries. And remember, it's work in progress. I find a lot of people are all about all or nothing, and like it needs to be perfect, and that's rigid. Perfection is rigid because it's nothing's perfect.
I've definitely experienced that just with people I've been talking to, where they've been coming up with you know, timetables and structure, and you know that over the next few weeks, when everyone is adjusting and adapting, that, you know, those are not necessarily going to be run like clockwork, and yeah, I think having plans, but accepting that these plans are going to change and that there has to be a bit of give, and things are not going to work out as you envisage, certainly not straight away. And this is, like you say, a chance to learn, adapt, and bond. Yeah, I mean, there are some positive things that are going to come out of this.
Definitely, and I think it's important that you sort of manage your expectations, definitely, and also manage the way you think. Thinking is so important because it flows into our belief cycle. So, like, for example, I have a client who is a stay-at-home mom, and she's stressed, thinking that her partner, her husband now is working from home, is going to think she's not doing anything around the house because now he's watching her. But that's her. He hasn't said anything about that. So it's just about being kind of showing some vulnerability of like, well, the story I'm telling myself is that you are judging me that I sat on the couch for 5 minutes or something like that. It's all about an opportunity to communicate, and be flexible in the way you think, and challenge your thinking too. So, but like I said, the work in progress meeting with the family with a flexible timetable. It has to be a flexible timetable. Timetable shouldn't be rigid because things come up, that you can't foresee. And then maybe you need to have another meeting or a discussion. Maybe don't even call it a meeting. Have like a family bonding session, like a week later. Like maybe keep it ongoing, or every few days even, and go, and not reactive. It's more just I'm just feeling quite overwhelmed with this, and I really would like you to make sure that you take your plate to the kitchen, or whatever it is. This is what will help me. Can you do that? And like have a discussion about it, I think is really important.
Having those discussions, and as you mentioned, with the media and the panic, just keeping you can put limits on what you're consuming and when, maybe just having like set times in your day for when you are going to purposefully and intentionally read something, watch something, without feeling like it's coming at you, you're going to it. And
absolutely, because I think what we're seeing is just sort of a bit of a divide in people. So there's this avoidance, like what are we all on about? It's just the flu. And then there's this consumed, we're all going to die. And it's kind of like none of those extremes are never helpful. It's always about having that balance. And it's important to keep that in mind. So you're not just pretending everything's okay, but you're also not reading every single thing that is out there in the media, because that's just going to cause you to stay in that stressed state. And interestingly too, if this helps some people about stress, is the more stressed we are, the more those hormones, there's adrenaline, cortisol, all those types of hormones and chemicals get flooded in our body, which to keep us in that stressed state. And when we're in that state, our immune system is lowered. So you're actually wanting to try and make sure that you have this balance with keeping your exercise, keeping those things that you would normally do if you can, or be flexible about it. If you can't go to the gym, do 100 star jumps in your living room or something. Go out into your garden, and then making sure that, I always say again, it's a balance. Whenever you have like active stuff, which is important, like exercise, you've got to learn to relax yourself as well. So it's the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nerves. You need to calm down with it as well. So because the more calm we stay, the more our immune system is going to be boosted. It won't be lowered. So that's really important. So it's not just this psychology babble that you need to do relaxation. You've got to try to find a way to really calm your nervous system.
And it's sort of, I guess it's not a vicious cycle, actually it feeds into each other. So as soon as you start looking after yourself or sort of relaxing, and your immune system, sort of helping your immune system, and then making sure that you are eating well and sleeping well and doing everything proactively to keep yourself healthy, then that will actually lower your anxiety again, because you know that you're doing something proactive to sort of keep yourself well when, you're obviously at this moment quite concerned about, getting a horrible virus. So I guess it's all kind of helps,
Yeah, they're all connected, absolutely. And I think the important thing in this state that we're in, or this place, in the world, is that look at what you can control. What can you control? Don't focus on what you can't control, because then that just influences circular thinking. So it's just, you never have an end. It's more like a what if this happens, and what if this happens, and then you're just stressing yourself out more and more and more. You've got to go, hang on, what do I know? Okay, I know that this is it. Okay, what do I know? Okay, well, we're in a place now where, people have gone to the moon. We have technology and research. We've got people who are working on it. It's we're in an amazing place to be compared to years and years ago. So I think it's important that as well. There are people working on a vaccine right now, things like that. But it's just really important to be able to focus on what you can do rather than what you can't. And what you can do is manage your own and regulate your emotions. But I just wanted to add this because I have a lot of clients who say, well, I don't want to meditate because it doesn't solve the problem. Like, it's not a solution.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was going to ask you about some techniques that we can do to actually try and calm ourselves down if we get into those states.
Definitely, because I know a lot of people talk about like self-care, and you're like, what is self-care? I don't know. But so I think it's important to keep that in mind, because then you're going to be disappointed, or you're going to have a false expectation of what it actually can do for you. So with calming your body through deep breath work, and I'll explain it a little bit more detail in a minute, but deep breath work, progressive muscle relaxation, visualization, mindfulness, meditation, those things, yoga as well. What it does is it just helps you to calm yourself so you don't, like I said, get into that stressed state. And what that does is it helps you to think clearer. You can just see things a lot more rationally, a lot more clearly, and therefore you respond in a way that is healthier. So that's what it does do. So it won't solve this problem we have. It will help you tackle the problem in a much healthier way, a much more relaxed way, so that you have more options as well within yourself, and you can recognize what you can do, rather than, oh my gosh, like just this panic of like, and then you can't calm. If you can't calm yourself, like I said, this is an opportunity to practice now. I don't think it's like, oh well, I haven't been meditating, so no, this is
we're all going to have a lot more time on our hands potentially if we are all in our homes. So and it would be wonderful if we could collectively meditate the problem away. But like you said, I think just for ourselves, just for ourselves, changing that energy and calming ourselves down is obviously going to be really important to deal with everything else that's going to be coming at us anyway. Dealing with just the fact that we're at home and we've got all our family members around us. I mean, I think, and getting children to sort of practice the little meditations is a really good idea as well.
Absolutely. No, that is so important. So that's what I was going to say as well. You can actually do it as a family thing. There's cosmic yoga.
Yes.
You've seen it, UK based. I think, and anyway, but you could do that with kids. It's for little kids, and there's yoga with Adrian. There's so many online things that you can do, but as a family, like, maybe just experiment with it. Someone might really not like it for whatever reason, and that's fine, but just find something else. All I would say is give it a go for a few times. Understand it's not going to take the virus away, but what it will do is you calm yourself so that you don't start looking at divorce, or like, imagining you want to live on an island away from everyone. So that's going to help with those stress levels in this confined space that we're finding ourselves in.
Well, I mean, it's probably inevitable that when, particularly, with couples, if you're suddenly both working at home together, you're both wanting your own space, you're both having to deal with children, whereas one parent may not be used to that. Maybe they normally go out to the office, now they're suddenly at home and have kids at home, and it is inevitable that stress levels and tempers are going to get short. So dealing with it as a couple, I mean, how do you kind of help to just reduce those frictions or those moments where you can sense that kind of rising frustration, with someone or another?
Definitely. So that's where I think it's up to each individual person to manage their own emotions. It's really important that we have that understanding where, a lot of the time we have this like false idea that, no, I'm unhappy, you must make me happy, or you keep doing that thing that really annoys me. Of course, there's interdependence, you're living together, so you need to respect each other. You do need expectations, certain expectations in a relationship. Like I expect that you're going to, consider me or be respectful and things like that. Not harm me in any way intentionally, but we're all human, so we do that without realizing or meaning to. But it's important that we learn ways to get our own emotions And then we can, once we feel a bit calmer, if there is a frustration rising, I'd say start trying to get attuned to yourself, your body, know what your triggers are. I've one person in particular that I'm working with, so she's an introvert. She doesn't like people around her.
Gosh,
And so having all the family members in a space is, you know, very confronting.
Mm-hmm.
And I can completely relate to that. So it's really important to know what your triggers are, know what your needs are, what kind of environment you would need.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we've got to adapt because this is an unusual situation, and then be able to clearly communicate. Don't expect your partner to know what you need when you don't even know what you need. That's one of the biggest problems I see in relationships is, you should know. Well, we've been together for 20 years. You should know. If you have that expectation, you'll be disappointed and end up fighting, you know. So it's about making sure you know how to regulate your own emotions, with all the things that we can talk about in a minute about calming yourself, and making sure you eat well, sleep well, are active. Yes. But that communication, clear communication, I think that's one of the biggest sort of limits in relationships is clear communication. We communicate to a point, but we're afraid of feeling rejected or whatever it is, whatever our wound is, or our attachment wound, whatever emotional neglect we felt as a child. So it plays out in our relationship. So it's important that you're a team. Try to stick to being a team, and you do that by communicating, showing vulnerability. I say that, you know, in an ideal situation, that's what will happen. But I know some people struggle, and like I sometimes have one part of a partnership, and I feel like I really should be seeing the partner. I feel, but I think, you know, some people aren't as open to kind of this vulnerability and communication. Yeah. But I think, you know, clear communication as much as you can is imperative when we're in this place, so that we don't take everything out on our partner, you know, or our children. And also, if you can calm your nervous system, you're going to model and be a leader for your children as well. So and everyone else, really. So I think it's really important that we all know what our triggers are, understand yourself, and use this as an opportunity to learn about yourself. If you don't know what your triggers are, start reflecting, start writing, journaling a little bit of like, or when it comes up, go, ooh, like, okay, like, where did I feel that? Jeez, I really felt that.
We're all going to emerge. We're all going to emerge from this situation so much more self-aware, I think. So moving on to those, you know, methods of calming, and we sort of touched on the sort of the meditation and things. Are there anything else that we can do, or that you would recommend we do?
Yeah, well, I think so. The first thing I always like, I kind of like 3 kind of ways of looking at things. So breath work is so important, and a lot of people are like, well, I already breathe, you know, unconsciously, so what's the problem? You know, but the problem with that is that we often breathe, especially when we are anxious or stressed, through our chest.
Yeah, up here.
Taking deeper breaths and like panicking, and then you can actually kind of increase a panic attack yourself without realizing. The more we take in a certain amount of oxygen and don't expel as much, it just makes us start feeling all tingly in our hands and like can't take a deep breath. So you've got to try and learn to do diaphragmatic breathing. That's so important. It's so simple, but it is so important. So basically, it's just, you can put your hand, I don't think you can see, but you can put your hand on the diaphragm area. Make sure that moves. You've got to, make sure you inhale through your nose, counting to 4. I say hold it for 4. And then exhale, I always say exhale 8, but there are lots of different ones. There's box breathing. You can Google online. There are a lot of variations, as well as, you know, a lot of apps that do deep breathing. So that's definitely one that I think we should never, you know, don't underestimate the power of that deep breath. Yeah,
I mean, it is instantly calming. Like, I know if I just take a few deep breaths, even in a moment, just a normal moment in the day, it can have that instant calming effect.
Definitely. And I hear some people say, like, I can't take a deep breath. And sorry, just also, if you can practice it, that will help you as well. So a lot of people try to deep breathe when they're having a panic attack, and that's not going to work as well or as effectively. So if you can practice it and, you know, include it in your daily kind of lifestyle now, then see, that's going to help you a lot more, and you're going to more likely remember to use that deep breath. But if you find you struggle to take a deep breath, it helps to exhale first and then take that deep breath. You exhale out, it's like all any bits of leftover air is out, and then you've got more of an option to, or opportunity to inhale deeply. The other thing is progressive muscle relaxation is another one, where you pretty much kind of compartmentalize each muscle group. You could start from your feet, so just your feet, and you tense them and then relax. And then your calf muscles tense, relax, and don't do it as quick as I'm talking. But you know, and the reason that's useful is because if I said to you right now, Louise, like just relax. Right? If you like uncrossed your legs and kind of sat back, you won't really feel that relaxed. But if you focus on a muscle group and you tense it, the counter reaction is it has to relax and you feel a little bit lighter and looser. So that's quite a good technique as well. And that calms more your body. The breath one calms more internally. The progressive muscle relaxation calms you physically. And then the last one is mind. So, which is the challenge a lot of the time, because we're just so cognitive and we tend to overthink. And it's very common. You know, I have a lot of clients who are quite anxious, and anxiety is normal. We need to be anxious. That's how we've survived a lot of things. You know, if we weren't anxious at all, we would have been eaten by lions long ago, you know.
It's like a worried balance of being alert and cautious about things, and versus actually, you know, not actually panicking.
Exactly. Again, there's that fine balance. But I like encouraging you to experiment. There are different options. You know, I never would say you need to do guided meditation, because some people don't like that, and that's fine. Or you might like guided meditation, but you don't like that person's voice. It's fine. Find someone else. Like, just do whatever you can. Like for me, mindfulness, I quite like. I've got 2 cats, so like stroking cats. Like that's just being in the moment. You're using your senses. You know, and you're just kind of being in the moment, even if it's for just a few seconds or a few minutes, but it's just really trying not to think. And you're not thinking, I am stroking the cat, because that's thinking. It's feeling. It's so important that we learn ways to start feeling rather than thinking. And that's where all the research is coming through for everything, for all psychology, psychiatry. With trauma, it's all about body work, more body work rather than just thinking about.
So not intellectualizing everything and just letting it letting go a bit more.
Exactly. So and we do that by a guided meditation is helpful. You kind of are doing that with breath work if you're focusing on your breath as well. You just focused your attention. And then mindfulness, like being in the moment with something. A visualization is helpful as well. You could close your eyes and imagine, which I think is really I'd encourage you to do this now, because nature is so important for us, you know, just to kind of de-stimulate, de-stress. A lot of people, you know, they talk about forest bathing and stuff, I think in Japan.
Japanese,
It's so important, especially because we've been in this concrete jungle, but now we have an opportunity. You've got to get out your house if you can, or if you have a balcony, get out, or a garden, you know, get into the garden. Or even just looking at an image of something, you know, having like a beautiful mountain on your laptop or something, you know, it's actually, they've done research where even just looking at a picture of nature is helpful. So it's important. But visualization is another one where and like I said, I'd encourage you to do this now, is imagining, you know, you're at the beach or something, or you're in the meadow and you can feel the breeze and you can feel the warmth of the sun, and just try to use your senses. That's just the only kind of instruction, is to be in the moment with it. Can you smell? What can you hear? And every time you get a thought unrelated to wherever you are, it's something like, the virus or something. I don't know. Just try to untangle yourself from that and bring your
back
attention
to the meadow.
Just bring it back to what you're doing, so that you don't get like hooked on that. Because I think what I was thinking as well about it is we tend to have like tunnel vision, like virus tunnel vision or crisis tunnel vision. Everything gets more, and that's all we're seeing. And we've got to try and just open up our horizon and go, actually, what am I grateful for now? What opportunities can come out of this? Absolutely. You have to think like that. You have to have that positive way of thinking. And I know a lot of people don't like the idea of like, positive, because it's like, as if it's an extreme positive or negative.
Yeah, or positive, a bit contrived, like you're trying to force this positive. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, it's not in an extreme way, but in order for us to get through this and to keep having hope, which is important for anything, you know, with everything, climate change, all this stuff, we need hope. If we don't have hope, we feel helpless, and then we kind of check out and we're like, what's the point, you know? And as soon as you get there, it's quite dangerous. So it's like noticing wow, it's actually a blue sky outside, you know, or maybe not in the UK.
Well, yeah, well, maybe not today, but I think, even thinking about things like the environment is actually key, because I mean, this whole scenario that we're in right now is probably going to do wonders for the environment. And so, there are definitely positives that are happening in the world at the same time as something pretty negative happening in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's good to allow yourself to think of those things as well. Also to laugh. There are some funny memes around as well. Some are, inappropriate, of course, but like fun things to laugh about. It doesn't have to be about the situation, but laughing is important. We need to be able to still have that banter and learn something new if you can, while you're at home, and use the commute time that you would normally take, to do something like self-care. Because a lot of people go, I don't have time in the morning, and then they get home and I'm too tired. Now's your chance to really try.
No more excuses for that, right?
And I'd just say to, experiment with things. There are so many amazing things. And also, sorry, just one thing to add is try not to think like, you do it once and you're going to feel amazing. It's a process. It's a lifestyle. You will start noticing changes, but only after you've tried for a while. So it's like, building strength. You can't go to the gym once and expect to have massive muscles. Yeah. I mean, that's impossible. Same thing with learning to calm yourself and regulate your emotions. It takes practice. So it's always a work in progress. And if you find, you had a day that you weren't able to do it, it's fine. Don't berate yourself. Just try again today or later today or tomorrow or something, just try not to berate yourself with this. Learning new things is hard. So be kind to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be interesting? We're in this situation now, and for us, with the school closures, for instance, that they've just said until further notice. Like, we don't know how long this is going to go on for. It could be months potentially. So I was like thinking, wouldn't it be sort of useful at this time to use this opportunity to, create one of those charts where, every day you cross off something or you tick something, and you can kind of, because I'm not saying it's like a sentence, but it's actually like, instead of counting down the days, you're just seeing how much you can progress at something, and use this time to kind of, how many days in a row can I meditate, and how am I feeling at the end of, use it as an experiment, like in 2-3 months time, like how are you feeling, and you can gauge, where you've come from starting now.
100%, I agree. Like, experiment with it and test yourself, see.
Yeah,
and also
gamify it a bit. If you something that you find difficult, make it a challenge.
Definitely, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Sharon, thank you so much for your time and for coming on and joining us. I realise it's a bit earlier in the morning for you than it is here, so no, I really appreciate it, and I hope I know we've had a few people watching, so I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions or comments off the back of it, do comment if you've enjoyed it. If you found something useful, do let us know. It's been really good to have you here, and I'm sure we'll do something again at some point in the future. I know you're writing for the magazine, and we're going to be covering some interesting things going forward. So yeah, brilliant to have you. Thank you ever so much for sharing these tips and various things. It's been really good.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Louise.